Good evening and welcome to 365 Days of Amazing Stories with Theo Mayer. Here we are on day 108 of 2024. And I apologize if my voice sounds a little funny. My nose is a little stopped up. I went and visited my two grandchildren over the weekend, and they both had runny noses, and I seem to have picked up whatever they had. Anyway. 108. It's a number that is considered pretty special in many traditions around the world. And so on this special day, I want to talk briefly about your imagination and how important it really is. Now, we all have heard me quote Einstein and the fact that he said that your imagination was more important than knowledge. Why am I dimming these lights down? Because I want you to listen as opposed to watching me in any way. How do we culture our imagination? I've told many stories so far on my YouTube channel. Intelligent people would listen to every one of those stories, and while they're listening, close their eyes and allow the images that your mind creates to be in your awareness. This is how we culture imagination. I could give you some things to imagine right now. Imagine a hole opening up in the earth, a cave in the hills of Kentucky, and going toward it on a winter day. Now, this cave is nestled in the trees. There's a hole there, though, that goes into the ground. And the cave is very important because on this cold winter day, with snow on the ground in the hills of Kentucky, there is steam coming from the entrance of the cave because the temperature in the cave is a constant 55 degrees. And so as that air interacts with the cold, below freezing air, it creates steam. Now imagine going down into that cave. The descent is steep. It's over rubble. In fact, people that lived around there used to use it to throw their garbage into. So there's a lot of weird stuff down in the entrance of the cave. Fortunately, it doesn't last long. You get through and past the garbage and then find yourself in a room that is larger than any room in a normal house. There's stalactites and stalagmites coming from the floor and the ceiling, with water dripping. And as you walk and descend further into this cave, if you turn out your light, because you've gone past where you can see back to the entrance, it is completely pitch black, except for all those images that you can create in your mind. Now imagine just being in that cave and listening to me tell you a story. You wouldn't have anything to watch, anything really to see, except what your mind was creating. Why did yogis go to caves? To sit in meditation, to withdraw from society and all the hustle and bustle, so they could see what images truly lay within their consciousness. Now, I don't know how many of you take time out during the day to actually sit and just allow things to come to you, allow images to come into your mind, allow thoughts to cascade through your awareness. But I think it's a good practice. Clearing one's mind allows for thoughts and images to come. And where do these thoughts and images come from? I think this is perhaps why it is so important to take these moments in silence to determine, in fact, where thoughts and images actually come from. Do they come from within? Or do they come from without? Or do they come from both places? Are we divinely inspired? Are we able to cognize things that we've never been introduced to? And if so, where does that come from? Where lies our ability to understand things that we've never been taught? Where does the ability to understand a situation concerning people or animals and to know what's going on without anybody telling you, to read a person, to understand what their motives are? How do we see our own vision and dream for ourselves? How do we culture a life that's going to be fulfilling, that's going to lead us to the fulfillment of the dreams that are special and unique to us? In these days that we're living in, I believe it's April 17th, 2024. We have so many devices that have screens that feed images to us throughout a day, throughout an hour, throughout a minute. In 1 minute, the amount of images that you can scroll through on your phone or computer, it's boggling. And all these images, well, it's almost like they are, I wouldn't say burned, but they're placed within our consciousness, within our minds. I mean, if you think of a favorite movie, you can go back and see images from that favorite movie, or maybe it's not a favorite movie. Maybe it's some image that we just carry. Like right now, I'm thinking about the movie of Forrest Gump when he steps in, a pile of dog poop and he says, "Shit happens." As if that was the beginning of when that phrase came into being. How did Einstein come up with all of his revelations, all of his theories? Were they his? Or was he simply open? He was different when he was growing up. Perhaps he was open in a way that other people were not, so that that information could come through him. We know people like that in our lives. They just sort of know. Anyway, I think it's very important that we take time off as well, as much as we can, in order to be without all these images flooding into our awareness. You know that many of us who are still on the planet right now grew up in a time when we didn't have this kind of input on a constant basis. How common people have become, even around the world. Cultures are blending one into another, losing their distinct qualities to a great extent because of these devices that we have. You can go to any corner of the world at this point and see people dressed in Adidas or Nikes, Converse, wearing t-shirts with logos of a great number of different companies, carrying around iPhones, iPads. Now, I don't know, but I love to go to the store and buy milk that hasn't been processed, and the milk and the cream separate. The cream is so delicious. The milk is still delicious because it's whole milk, but it hasn't been homogenized. I've even heard homogenized milk isn't so great for you. I mean, I even liked more when I lived in Montana and used to milk cows morning and evening, sitting on a one-legged stool, carefully and gently squeezing the teats of the udder of the cow in order to milk the udder. Cats would sit around close by. I would often shoot a stream of milk at them. They would open their mouths and try to catch that milk within their mouths, but sometimes it would just hit their fur. That was good enough because they would lick their fur and get the milk that way. We would only milk half of the cow. And our two milk cows, one was named Dolly. She was a brown Swiss. We had a Jersey cow. I can't remember her name. She was more likely to kick. Both of them had calves because in order to have milk, you've got to have calves. And after we had milked half of their milk, we would let the calves come in and milk the other side. Boy, it was something to watch them eat. Now, of course, we had to keep the calves and the cows separate because otherwise those calves would have consumed all of the milk. But brown Swiss and Jersey cows, they produce a lot of milk, more than other varieties that are raised for beef, like Herefords or Angus. Herefords are those red and white ones. Angus, they tend to be black Angus, though there's red Angus as well. Anyway, I don't want to be like homogenized milk. I'd rather be like the cream at the top. And you know what we make from the cream, don't you? Well, you can make whipped cream, which that's pretty good if you add a little sugar or maple syrup. But we also get to make butter from the cream. And then from the butter, you can boil it, get rid of the milk solids, and end up with ghee or butter oil. One of the most beautiful substances. So anyway, I hope this was a journey through your imagination. And I beg you, take some time to find the dream that lies within and culture your imagination by listening stories as often as you can. Thanks for joining. Have a good rest of your day or evening.